In this video, I will show you what it takes to reach 2000 ELO in chess. 3 intense games with 3 different openings, a few brilliant moves, and some violent attacks. As always, while explaining every single move. Let's go. First game, we are in the Spanish, and my opponent played a strange move, knight d4. The idea is that the knight is attacking the bishop. Of course, I don't have to leave the pawn hanging. There is another pawn hanging over there. But now I can simply trade, and once they take back, they already have a weakness, because 2 pawns will be doubled on the d file. Once they take back, I'm simply going to castle, and I have one thing that I need to take care of, and that's this bishop. That's a strange move. You always need to be careful to have a path to come back with pieces that are very much forward. And my bishop is already in the half of black. So I need to be sure that after a6, b5, my bishop can come back. This because at some point I want to play the move d3 to fully develop all the rest of my pieces. Now, in this case, if I play the move d3, I can then go back with my bishop on a4 and then eventually also b3, so my bishop is going to be fine. Now, every time you have a new situation, you need to assess how to develop fully, because you want your piece movement to be congruent, to make sense together. For example, if I want to develop this bishop and then I go with the knight in front of it, I need to understand, okay, where do I want to go with the knight next? Because I might be on the way of my bishop. And you might say, okay, the knight might come to f3. Looks an amazing square attacking this pawn, then the bishop can go. But this is exactly why you need to think first. Because my next plan will be to expand thanks to the move f4. Usually you need to be careful about pushing the f-pawn, but in this case, this diagonal is not weak because there is this pawn shutting it down, basically. So f4 is how I want to try to get more space. That's why I will probably go out with a knight first, and then play the move f4, knight f3. And then I will have a great position going on. You might say, Alessia, ooh. Okay, all good. I got a little shock for a second, because this queen is looking at this pawn, looking at this bishop, and there is also a bishop pointing here. I absolutely need to defend this bishop. And the question is a4 or c4? Usually I would go on c4, because from there the bishop is attacking the most vulnerable point, which is the f7 pawn. But in this case, I want to avoid the move d5. Why? Because when you have a weakness, you want to get rid of it. And d5 would be a way to, first of all, trade a central pawn for my strong central pawn, open up this bishop, and remove the weakness of 2 double pawns. So now, important not to take that pawn. If I would have touched it, I would have captured it, because it would be checkmate. And now they have a problem, because I could have some discoverage attacks with my knight, because once I move my knight, the bishop is attacking the queen. So the first move I want to calculate is knight f3, attacking the queen and attacking this pawn. I see some very nice tactics. And one other move could be also the move f4, also attacking the queen, winning a tempo. But I really like knight f3, because the queen has just one square to defend, to keep this pawn protected, and is f6. But from there, I can play bishop g5, developing with tempo. The queen has to move one more time. How to keep this pawn protected? Well, one move would be queen d6, but then I see so many possibilities. First of all, I could take a free cheese macaroni on f5, open up the file where the king is, so it looks very promising. One other possibility would be to go with the queen on g6, because with the queen on g6, I cannot take this pawn. Okay, let's start to do it so you can visualize it a little bit better. I'm attacking the queen. I guess the queen will have to move, probably on f6. Not on f6. Okay, in this case, I can do the tactic anyway. I wanted to play first bishop g6 and induce the queen to go on g6, but now do you see it? Bang, bishop takes, because if the king is taking, there is a royal fork on e5. So now the king will have to move in any other square, but in that case, we can simply take this pawn with the bishop. We will have 2 extra pawns, and we can consider this a winning position. Now we win even more material, because the queen needs to say goodbye, and we take it. In order to convert this game to a win, we don't have to relax, very important, and we need to keep doing good moves. Good moves are always moves that bring more pieces to the game and that trades down material. Don't stop looking for the opponent's idea, because they don't need so many pieces to checkmate you. Now, this threat is huge, because it would basically be at least a draw for them. So very important to take care of it and to stop the threat. I think h3 is a very safe move, stopping the threat of the bishop taking here. And now we can keep going with our plan, which is still to bring out the bishop, the queen, the rook. Once we bring all the pieces, we can actually try to give checkmate. Don't forget that once we have extra material, we need to use it. If you don't use the extra material, it's like if you don't have it. Okay, so let's bring also this bishop to the game, and then probably the queen up. I wasn't expecting the move g6, so actually I changed my mind. I go with the queen on e2, because the queen is sneaking, oops, not there, but here. And there is not really a way to avoid the queen from sneaking in. Actually, there is one way, which is bishop there. I like that move. Nice, good find by my opponent. I'm struggling. I don't have an easy way to go with my pieces. Now, it's very important that this move is not a problem, so I will try to play the move c4, trying to get some more space. If this pawn is capturing, I'm happy to take with the pawn, and then I will try to push the pawns to annoy the bishops that are stopping all my pieces from get to this king. b5 is a smart move, trying to stop the move c4, but I can play it anyway, because after pawn takes, I can take back with the pawn is protected by the queen behind, then the bishop has to move one more time. And what did I do? Basically, a few moves before, there was no good placement for this rook. But now, everything has changed. Because suddenly, I see very nice files for the rook. Also, the queen gets new perspective. So opening up the position was good. And here we see the practical example. But also from a theoretical point of view, when the king of your opponent is exposed, it's usually good to open up the position. It's always like this. Principles are matching concrete play, if you choose the right principle at the right time. Now, my next move is going to be probably queen f3 or rook c1. I want to get my queen on c6. The rook is attacking my bishop. Great move. I will play something fancy. I say like, okay, come and take it. I will take your rook. When you play such moves, you need to be sure that they cannot play one move that protects the rook plus attacks your queen. For example, bishop here would be terrible for us if the bishop wouldn't be hanging, because then we have to move the queen away and we lose the bishop. So be very careful. If you play fancy moves, you need to calculate and be sure. Now, there is no way to move this rook away to save the rook and in some way counterattack this queen, so we are safe. But important to check. Okay, the rook has been moving. Ooh, but it's a self-mate, because this rook was very much needed. Sorry, this square was very much needed to give an escape square for the king. GG's. New game, we have the black pieces, and we will go again with e4, e5. I think e4, e5 for the black pieces is one of the most solid opening for black. It is an opening that grandmasters are playing at any level. Oh, I have never seen this gambit in my entire life. The queen is not taking back this pawn, and they are playing the move f4, trying to get control over the center. Now, there is one move I've learned that is useful in many cases in e4, e5 structures, and is the move d5. If you can play this move successfully, that's probably a good idea. And here it seems like that's a great idea, because if the pawn is taking, I'm taking back with the queen, and usually you shouldn't go out with the queen too early. But how to attack my queen? There is no way. Also, the queen is protecting this pawn. So actually, this seems to be like the only sensible move. Now, this somehow reminds me the game that I played against Magnus Carlsen, because I had something similar. It started with the king's gambit, but I think must be a similar position to this. Okay, so I will play knight f6, and the idea is that I'm protecting this pawn, and also if they push, I might keep going with the move knight c6, attacking the queen moves, and then knight e4. I think this is very powerful. Just one thing I need to check is, what if they play bishop b5? Yeah, it's not a problem because in that case I will go anyway with the knight on e4, and there are so many threats already. With the knight on e4 and the queen here, I'm threatening bishop c5. And then there would be a very annoying check or a fork. Also, with the knight on e4, I'm threatening queen h4. This is a typical tactic that you always need to check when the f-pawn has been pushed. All right, we were expecting this move, but now knight e4. Very simple, very powerful. There is threat number 1 and threat number 2. White is playing a very logical development move, stopping the idea of queen h4. But now what are they going to respond to bishop c5? This is a simple move, attacking the queen, and what we can do at the very least in the next move is bishop f2. And white is losing the possibility to castle. Also very simple. We could keep going with moves like short castle, bishop out, completing our development. So we are proceeding in the direction of getting a very good position out of the opening. We have a central pawn, so decent control over the center, another central piece. All the pieces are out, our pawn structure is safe, so we are doing fine. Okay, tactics. Don't forget to look for tactical problems. Now, what they are threatening to take here twice. Now we are in front of a few options. We could play bishop d7, just protecting the knight one more time. I don't like this move because this pawn is then unprotected, so maybe knight c3 is forcing the trade of this strong knight. And then castle, which is just sacrificing a pawn. And today that's what I'm choosing, because usually you need to be very careful when sacrificing, because it's something that you cannot undo. But they are not even taking the pawn, so castle was definitely a big success. Now probably I'm going to give this check, or I could play knight f2. So let's go with this check. Let's make the king lose the possibility to castle. I think that's for us in the long run a very good point. The only thing that we need to make sure is that we keep possibility to attack the king. Because imagine if they are trading off everything, no? If they manage to trade this strong knight, how are we actually going to attack the king? I will go with the bishop back. Now, the bishop I needed to do something about the bishop, because if they are taking my knight, then my bishop would be hanging. So important either to be the first one to trade or to go back. Now, I don't want to be the first one to trade, but I was waiting for them to come and take this knight because I'm opening the d file. So if they take, I'm taking back with the pawn. They can win a pawn because this can be taken, but now this check can be very strong. I was thinking that knight e1 might be the only way to stop it, because if they cover up with the queen, I can take simply this pawn, so I win back the material and it should be good. So after this, they cannot move the king because this bishop is stopping, so they have to cover it up, and probably with the knight is the only way. Yes, so we go there. And this is a scary move because the queen might also is in enemy territory, right? So we need to be sure that can come back. But now we take this pawn. Very nice. I was checking. Always look for tactics, especially when your queen is so much in the enemy territory. Now this queen cannot be moved so easily because we are checkmating on f2. So what we need to do is to bring even more pieces to the game. The rooks are doing nothing right now. Also white rooks, but we want to make the best out of our pieces. So my next move is going to be bishop f5. This is a lovely move. Then rook d8 if I can. Now I would prefer not trading the queens, to be fair, because yeah, the king is so weak. So let's go with the queen here. Always look for tactics, do not forget. So I'm attacking this bishop. Probably the bishop should go back on d3 because you're attacking this point, but also you are stopping my easy development move with bishop f5 and then rook d8. I like also that the queen is a bit on the way on this bishop, so stopping the development. I'm very happy to see this move on the board because we are left in an open position with the bishop pair. And here we will see the power of the bishop pair. The light squares are so weak for white right now. So I just need to bring this bishop out, pretty much. Bring this rook, put a bishop attacking the king, and the king is almost checkmated. And we are going for that, straight forward. So bishop out, always make sure that there aren't forks that are too annoying. In this case, I would give away my bishop. And once the queen takes back, the light squares are even weaker. Because right now the knight can try to defend some light squares, right? Okay, bishop out. This move is calling me, saying like, please play it. And I'm going there directly for it. Now is already a very hard position for them. Yeah, they want to trade the queen. They're really trying desperately to trade. There is one threat. We gotta be careful, but I'm giving this check. The king is running out of squares. This is the only one. But then I sneak in with the king. With the queen, sorry. I see a bim bum bada bam bam. Bim. The king has to come here. Now I have so many discovery checks, right? I think I see it. I give a check. This is a double check with the rook and with the bishop. So the king has to be moved. If the king goes here, I take a free knight. I will win the game. So the king has just one square. And it's c1. But then my other bishop, and here you see the power of the bishop here, controlling all the squares. And the king has no squares left. After bishop there, the only move is actually knight d2. I would take a free piece, double checking the king and the queen. So now they chose actually the least painful square, because now I just give a check, followed by a checkmate in one. GG's. Before moving on to game 3, let me tell you about the most powerful way to improve your chess next year with the help of my grandmaster fiancé, Noel. One of the biggest pain points in chess is putting in the effort without seeing any results. This happens because there are so many bad suggestions and wrong resources out there. So you might feel like you're doing something to get better at chess, but in reality most actions don't really lead to improvement. That's why I love Noel's course. He will show you what really matters and how to do it the right way. Over 700 students have already benefited from this course. It's now your turn. You can get next level training with 30% off until the end of the year with code 2025. This is the best way to improve your chess in the new year, while also supporting us at the same time. Thank you to the sponsor for not sponsoring this video. Let's now go back to the game. So this could be the final game for today. We have again e4, but this time let's try to play the Sicilian. Whew. Knight out. Let's play it with e6 or d6. So let's play it with d6. Let's see what they play. Open. Ooh. We have the delayed Alapin. To be fair, I don't know any theory here. But I will play knight out, attacking this pawn, which needs to be protected one more time. And doesn't have white doesn't have a logical way to protect it, right? Because the knight cannot protect it. And usually in the Alapin, they want to play the move d4. So they have to play an awkward move with the queen out on c2. So I will go with knight on c6, just developing my knight in a very standard square for the Sicilian. I will protect it with my own bishop, because if they take, now I don't have to take with the pawn, but I can take with the bishop. Now a6 is a very typical move once the bishop is on b5, because you win at tempo. Now I take back with the bishop and I'm attacking this pawn, which needs protection. And I'm very happy with this position, because usually white really wants to play the move d4, but now they cannot. So I will keep going with my development, because I need to play e6 and bishop on e7, and then I will be ready to castle. If I can do that, plus playing the move d5, my position is gonna be very juicy. Okay, great. I think we're very close to that. They might play the move d5 soon, so I will play the move rook c8 before castling, I know. But the point is that the rook is looking directly at the queen, staring there. Okay, I wasn't expecting this one, to be fair. I could play either knight out, knight on d5, a very central, strong square, or to take this pawn. If I take this pawn, they want to improve their knight. So I don't want that. I will go with the knight in the center. I love my knight. Very strong. Always, in general, is very good to let your opponent take capture pieces first. Because when, usually, is not always like this, but usually a piece that is backward comes forward, so is activated, is improved. So if I would have traded my pawn here, the knight would have been improved. Okay, this is a strong move. The knight is looking at some weak square, so I will bring my queen in a very typical Sicilian square, which is c7. Because from c7, with the pawn on e6 and with the pawn on a6, which is usually where the pawns are in the Sicilian, in many Sicilians, there is no knight that can attack my queen on c7. That's why c7 is a typical way to bring the queen. Okay, how do we keep going here? Honestly, this should be a roughly equal position. I have a few plans though, and one of them is to bring my knight on f4, trying to attack this pawn and this other one. I like this move because they want to get this bishop. I don't really have a way to save my bishop. If this pawn would be pushed, I would definitely play bishop e7 because the bishop is so strong on their diagonal. But the only square to avoid the trade of this bishop would be e8, blocking my rook. And then how do I actually do progress? I can't move my rook. I can't reroute this bishop. Another possibility is bishop here, because this fork is actually not possible. This would be a bit of a trick. Because after c4, I can play knight b5, b4 with tempo, attacking the queen moves, and then I have created some weaknesses. But to be fair, I think like my bishop here would be just weird. They could just move the queen away and then the threat of the fork is still there. So it would be just hope chess. So in that case, we will just play a normal move, bringing the rook on the open file. I was also thinking about the move knight f4, which has a very small idea that after knight f4, knight takes, we take with the queen, and the other knight cannot jump on e4, sorry, on e5, because it would be checkmate on g2, queen takes. But again, knight e5 is not a forced move. White could just play queen d2, attacking over knight. Ooh, I wasn't expecting this move. It looks very interesting though, because both knights are attacking this square. Now, if I push, it looks like a fork. Oops, the knight is taking gear. Haha, very unexpected. Also, there is the threat of the move d4. And the queen is suddenly threatening mate. I will play queen f4, responding to fire with fire, but this is a fire where I could also get burned. Because, okay, they could take this pawn and then I could take this one, they could take this rook and I could take their rook. But what about all the other moves? For example, d4. I think like knight takes shouldn't work. This shouldn't be too good. But what about d4? This looks great. They are threatening mate. And so now I have to stop the checkmate threat with either g6 or f5 or also knight g6. If I play knight g6, well, I just lost a pawn here. So probably I don't want that. Here is one of these positions where you have to calculate and be sure. So I will play the move g6 and I have done two types of calculation. I've calculated what about knight, any knight taking here, and what about the move g3. Just saying like, hey, if you take with the knight, I know what is going to be your next idea, to take on g2 attacking my rook. All right, they are not going for it. This is a scary move. The other move to calculate would have been g3. But it's also strong, this move, because the knight is coming to give a check on f6. I'm trying to understand if I can sacrifice my knight here and after king here to play the move f5. That looks interesting. Also interesting looks pawn takes, because this knight is hanging actually. And if they give a check, well, I can just go here and I'm staring at the knight which is hanging. So I will take this pawn. It's a scary move, but I'm allowing this check without any fear. And the plus is that after pawn takes, then the queen is unprotected on that c file. So potentially this could result in some tactics in our favor. Oh, they are taking the bishop, but we take back with the queen, and now it's even more dangerous for them. Because if they move this knight, we are threatening checkmate, and they cannot take back because the queen is hanging. So now I see lots of possibilities for us. Okay, we could take there. I guess it's time to take here. We are slightly exposing the king with the move f5, and also what we need to calculate is in the intermezzo knight f6 check. But if the knight is giving a check, we can simply, well, we are simply protecting the knight with our queen, and we can simply play, ooh, I hadn't seen this move, with the idea of just checkmating us. That's very strong. Do I have to sacrifice the queen? What? Because after e5, there is knight g5. What? Oh no. Okay, I will play a crazy move, which is a 5. This check shouldn't be good for them because I'm going with the king on f7. But knight g5 is very strong. Yes, I will play rook here to protect all the threats on this file. Now, this pawn is hanging, and this is a big problem for me, because if the rook is taking, I have to go here with the queen to try to keep my knight protected. So this is a crazy game. My threat is now knight f4, attacking the rook and threatening checkmate. But now they are threatening to come here with 2 rooks. But the rook is hanging. Oh, I have 59 seconds. Okay, I have 59 seconds. Not simple to win this one, because I'm under attack. Okay, I will try to push this pawn to just promote it. 58 seconds. Okay, they are threatening to take here. Take. Rook here is covering everything. So I take queen here and then rook g7. So I will just go to promote. And kind of... Ooh. Let's go. This was a crazy game. Knight g2 is actually a blunder, because my opponent played 2 brilliant moves in a row. And the point here is that after rook defending, stopping the checkmate, the rook is taking, the pawn attacking the queen is moving away. In this position, any move of white is losing, because my threat of knight f4 is really too strong. But there is one move, the only move for white, that doesn't only save white, because now my queen is under attack. How is the queen keeping the protection of this knight? Cannot hear because there is the knight, cannot hear because there is knight, cannot hear because there is the rook. So if the queen is taking the pawn, we lose a piece. If the rook is taking the pawn, is checkmate. So here white could have won a piece. That's why, going back to this position, this is still winning for me, but I need to play the simple, stylish move e5, protecting this knight, stopping this check because the queen is now covering this square, and here I have a crushing position. I hope this mini speedrun will inspire you to keep improving your chess in the next year. I have 2 things before leaving. First of all, Noel's course is on sale until the end of the year, and this was my last video of 2024. So thank you so much for watching and supporting my channel. Happy New Year! And in the meantime, YouTube thinks you will love this video. Check it out. See you next year. Bye!